undertaken by an external consultant. All costs would be borne by the person who is acquiring the property.
Yeah, okay. I heard a figure of, there was a figure that I quoted somewhere about, it was quite many tens of thousands to do that work. I just wonder if that is the case.
It varies depending on the time, the work involved, if it needs to come back to the committee, if there's issues in public consultation, etc.
Councillor Casey?
I'm interested in the process, Letitia. I heard you say that this has been going on with the local board since May, but we also heard from the local board today that they were blindsided by this on their agenda.
And the initial email was sent to the local board's relationship manager in May. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the exact date. I then sent a memo to the local board after we'd done internal consultation. Following the memo that I sent, and I don't have the date of that, but I can easily forward it around any committee members who want it. Following on from the initial memo, I was asked if board members could have some further time so that they could undertake site visits and have time to form a view, which I provided. Then in October, we went through and did a formal report to the local board meeting. I also discussed it at a workshop. It would have been probably in September.
And the process seems to me that didn't become formal until September then, when you had a workshop.
Sorry?
The process with the elected members didn't become formal until you did a workshop with them in September.
No, I'd done a memo before that. We were having some trouble just with booking a workshop date, so initially I did a memo, and then I did to let the board members know what was going on, because I didn't want them to be in the dark, and then when I could see them for a workshop, I followed that up. I'm sure you appreciate that local board workshop schedules are often booked well in advance, so that was the reason for doing the memo in the first instance.
Okay, my other question relates to the actual process of assigning a value, I don't mean a monetary value, a value to the strip. So you had your internal processes and Parks told you it had no useful status. Whereas the board came today and said, well, we're doing a review of all parks, and in the future, because of this happening over here, this could have a different status, and presumably they'll look at things like SIPTED and the safety of the strip, so I'm not really listening to that part of it. So my question is, in your process at the moment, do you look to the future? Because the only people who could tell you about the future of parks is the body with responsibility for local parks, which is the local board.
At this stage, we rely on the advice that we receive from council departments. So what we can do in the future is actually ask at that early stage when, say, the Parks, Sports and Recreation Department is looking at these things, that they also consult with the local board. So we can look at incorporating that. We've always left it to the departments and taken advice from them. If the advice had been this property needs to be retained in council ownership, that would have been at the end of the matter. We wouldn't have progressed it.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that that's almost obligatory.
Yeah, well,
we give the boards that responsibility.
Yeah,
they've got to be there at the outset.
My view is that I know there's been a lot of work done on this, but I don't think that we, in the circumstances, can approve this. I mean, you've got the local board saying they don't want to dispose of it, and quite frankly, I don't think it should be one. But
I'm going to move that we decline, because that one hasn't been put yet.
I'll second that.
Okay, so it's moved by Councillor Casey, seconded by Councillor Watson, that we decline to dispose of that legal description. So if we just change that, and you can cut out B.
We're just discussing about the direct meetings, but
It's a new motion. It's not they're moving the motion, so it's not as if that motion, take that off the table. We were just the motion moved by Councillor Casey is a new motion.
Is that a directive from the chair,
No,
Mr. Chairman? Is that a directive from the chair that you're removing that whole, so we don't get a chance to debate that now?
No, you can debate it, but it's been moved by. Well, it's been moved. I'm saying a motion is going on the floor that we decline that request, That'll be there. Now then you can.
Well, that's a
you-
direct
The other one
opposite.
hasn't
I'm
been-
just telling you,
hasn't
I'm
been
just
put.
saying, councillor Cooper, until a motion comes on the floor, we aren't.
Okay, well, I'll
debating-
move that motion, that
Well,
recommendation.
I'm sorry to
then.
say, but councillor Casey and councillor Watson have already moved a motion, so.
Well, we didn't hear, I'm sorry, Mr Chairman, can I please have a ruling on that? Because you can't remove that unless it's a chair's directive. You're saying that we're removing that option now and you're substituting it with a new one.
Yeah,
So is that what you're saying?
yes.
Okay.
Well, just further clarification on that, Mr Chairman, if the one that councillor Watson and Casey put up loses, do we then go back to
Yeah,
this?
well,
No, well,
obviously.
it has to be moved to go back to a substantive. If you've removed it, there is nothing to go back to, so we'll just have to move a new resolution, like
I don't know
if
what,
you remove.
I think you're arguing at cross purposes
No, I'm
here.
not, Mr Chairman. You said that's removed, then you can't go back to a substantive if it doesn't exist.
It's just a recommendation. That is a recommendation there. It's not, until a motion is placed on the floor for debate, put forward for debate, we don't have a motion to debate. And the motion has been put
Bit of a
forward
conflict, I
by
think, Mr.
councillor
Chairman.
Casey. It's been properly moved and seconded.
conflict.
So that is the motion that is on the table now.
Perfect.
Can we see it then, please?
Sorry?
Can we see what we're
Yeah,
discussing?
we'll put it up and you can debate it. Well, you can
Well,
speak to it.
question.
Yes, we'll just get this correct because we don't want to,
Can we take 5? Check on standing orders, because we...
I don't think you can do that.
We just, so can I make a recommendation? Can we just check standing orders, make sure we're doing this in the right order? Because I can see that if we go with the motion as proposed, you will debate that motion. It may be won or lost. If it's won, then it's clear. If it's lost, then we just want to make sure that we are able to reintroduce in effect what the recommation is here. of the
okay,
16
okay,
motion.
well,
So let's
make.
make sure we've got the right order, because we're making a decision that'll
Actually be
affect other
right.
Okay,
parties.
we'll adjourn for 2 minutes to have a look at that.
My money's on you, Mr Chairman. That's not a skinny.
Right, the motion which has been moved by councillors Casey and Watson is on the table for debate. Obviously, if that isn't successful, well, I'll take another motion. But at the moment, that motion stands. So, do I have any speakers? Councillor Casey, do you wish to speak to that?
I've said my piece. I'll just restate that if a local board comes to us telling us that they've got plans for the park, they are actually they have the responsibility for local parks. So it's almost like stomping on them if we say, well, actually, we know better and we'd like to sell this now and not give you the chance to have that in your pot as you make your decision about the future of that park. And I heard them say that they're looking at a playground that might restrict other access. I heard Panuku Development say they have concerns about SIPTED, but that's a local board issue too. If they want to improve the safety, then that's up to them. And Arthur had a worry about who was going to maintain it. Again, that's up to the local board. If the parks don't want to, the local board will certainly find a use for it. Who uses it? I would walk my dog down there. Not that I live on the shore, but who would use it? I think we need to find out. And that's also what the board said they're going to do. They're going to look at the use and access to that park. So we either devolve responsibility to them and give it to them, or we don't, and we have, so let them get on with it.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Yes, I want to ask a question. So, I'm not too sure why this came here and not to my committee, because that's where it usually would come.
For reserve revocation purposes.
Right, okay. So, this walkway, which looks fairly dangerous, and I know where it is, and I know the park, has been maintained by the owner of the house.
Of the adjoining property who's contacted us about purchasing it.
So for how long?
I'm not sure of the time frame, but the initial email that we got from the adjoining owner said that there's a piece of council-owned land next to my property. It's not maintained. I maintain it. I'd like to look at purchasing it. What would I need to do to go through that process?
Thank you. So presumably if we don't, she will stop maintaining it.
Presumably, yes. And there would be an ongoing cost to council of continuing to maintain the land.
So I can't support this, Mr. Chairman, and the reason why is because I spent Saturday walking around my area looking at bits of parkland that are no longer maintained by council, and which some of them are a complete mess, and some of them are people are maintaining it. And you know, this is a typical example, and you know, the contractors don't suddenly change their minds and start maintaining it. If the local board are going to get out their weed eaters and their mowers and go down and maintain it, maybe that's one way around this. But you know, the fact that the parks don't want it, that there is better access to this park, they're not going to build a children's playground between two houses. So I mean, I think you know, this is common sense.
Thank you. Councillor Darby.
Before I speak, I wonder if we could have clarification then from Parks as to is the Parks budget being expended here, and is the board prepared to massage its budgets to expend to maintain that? Because if somebody casts a vote just on the fact that a resident is maintaining it, is that a good reason to flog off some of the public estate? So that's two questions.
Well, we can ask the deputy chair of the Devonport Taxman Local Board what will be the situation in relation to maintenance of that park, that piece of reserve land, if it remains.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And
No, just that question.
yeah, I'd be very surprised to hear that Parks are maintaining all of the reserve and not that little strip. But I might say one of the big problems we do have on the North Shore is that private residents cannibalise public park and incorporate them into their private sections. And this is something that we've been resisting for a long time, and incorporate them back into parks. And just because somebody has cannibalised a piece of section, I don't know that that's happened here, doesn't mean to say we should just hand it over and allow them to do so.
Thank you, thank you.
So look, I think that's answered it. I mean, the board has expressed a deep interest in holding this particular parcel. I've inspected this particular parcel. It was just after school closed, and there were kids entering that point, and they were taking a shortcut. Now, we're told that it is non-utilised. I was only there for 10 minutes to inspect it, and 2 kids, little backpacks, and they were coming from the road and cutting through the park at that point. And I know it dips away, but we have, on the North Shore and all over Auckland, members, we have got parcels of land that are currently access ways that are this skinny, that have got board fences to 1.8 metres, and we don't close them down. This is a generous. If you look at that image there, and for those that haven't got there, you can see right through to the park. And look, there's a bit of a dip, but it's a bit of a dip. There's dips all over Auckland, and particularly in that area of Sunny Nook. They're used to dips.
Yeah.
And this is just
Well said.
This is an approach. This is an approach from a landowner who wants to maximise the value of their land. They don't have enough land to subdivide, so they get our land, and then they get massive uplift. Now, that's fine. They can do that, and they've gone through the proper process, and Letitia's done her job as she's required to do. But I say that it does have a lot of potential. If you don't take that route in the future, it's a 100, and I measured it approximately, just about a 120, 150 metres journey to go up through the bigger section and back down. I've just come from the opening of this pink, the light path, as the minister's named it this morning. Now, just take that as an example. For 10 years it was redundant infrastructure, and at one point the NZTA were looking at pulling it down because they couldn't find a use for it, non-utilised, non-utilisable. You know, I hear the same words. We dispose of this, do we dispose of that? No, we just held off, and now it is the most brilliant connection. This will be a brilliant connection in the future, and maybe not today, but the density in that area of Sunny Nook, as you well know, Mr. Chair, is going up substantially under the PORP, and we need every bit of blade and bit of open space and blade of grass possible, and particularly the connections, the way that people travel through their community with a low reliance on private motor vehicle travel. So look, I'm asking members, I've looked at it, board members have looked at it, and we see a lot of potential in it. Just keep it, please.
Thank you. Councillor Watson?